Hey, on my page and in my content, I like to specialize in anger. And the thing that I'm thinking about right now is what kind of anger motivates you? What kind of anger pushes you to the point where you decide to make the change? Whatever change is needed in your life, because a lot of times you can hit rock bottom with depression, or you can just peak with rage. And a lot of times it's one of those two things that makes you, really look at yourself and say, okay, how much more of this can I stand? And for me, it's anger that pushes me to do what I need to do. Because what happens is, at first I get angry at other people. I'll get angry at somebody else for the situation, being whatever it is. And then after I have some time to really be with that anger or be present with it, as they say now, which is a phrase I'm starting to really understand. But to be present with that anger, um, it's like it gives you time to really sit down and look at what all you've done that has led up to that point and allowed for those things to happen that are pissing you off so badly. So what I mean is, like, you don't respect your own boundaries, and then things happen, and then you get angry that people have done things they shouldn't have done to you, but you shouldn't have let it happen to start with, but you let it happen because of low self-esteem. You see where I'm going? You can go deeper and deeper with that and figure yourself out. And you just have to meditate on it for a while. And if you're having trouble with that, of course, like I say, get in touch with me. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. um, you're not too much for anybody to handle. You're not, outside the scope of being helped. That's never the case. Um, so for me, it was what I just described. It was my, being angry about my situation. And I mean more than one. This has happened throughout my life. This is like the general way that it plays out. I'm pissed off about what's going on. Why am I pissed off? Well, because so and so did this. Well, why did he get a chance to do that? Or why did she get a chance to do that? Well, they, you know, figured it was okay because of how I must have done something to make them think this was okay. This was, you know, um, allowed. Now you got to ask yourself what you did to make that person think that was allowed. What did you do to make that person think it was okay to shit on you? Because you gave the green light somewhere. There's somewhere where you dropped your guard and they just jumped in. They shouldn't have. They shouldn't have. So they're still wrong for what they've done, which is take advantage. But you lost touch with yourself somewhere and they smelled it and just took a bite. And when you realize it's because you kind of allowed it to happen, you're holding yourself accountable for what has gone wrong for you, but not in a cruel way, not in a self-punishment type way. That's not what this is. You don't have to punish yourself. You don't have to hate yourself even more for letting some shit happen that, shouldn't have happened. The whole point is you figure out where you went wrong and you figure out where you let this happen. What crack did they get through? And you look at that crack and you see what's missing. What's missing? Self-respect, because you let them walk all over you, and that's boundaries, or a lack of boundaries. Why do you have a lack of boundaries? Why do you not respect yourself enough to put a stop to that? Why is that? Well, self-love. Self-love. That's all it is. All this shit traces back to self-love. Every time it's going to go back to self-love of some kind, because that is humanity's issue. People think that some people, do something because of they're afraid of abandonment. Some people do stuff because they're afraid of blah, 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 whatever. But if you ask enough questions and get down to the core, the self-love or self-confidence, what have you, is 9 times out of 10, at least from what I've seen, especially with myself, has been the core issue. And and that's what you have to look at. So the times that I've been pissed off about my life, I had to really stop and ask myself, okay, well, how did this happen? And it goes back to not having respect for myself and not having love for myself. And then I would have like a moment where I'd say, okay, damn it, I'm gonna take the wheel and fix this. And and that's when you start, you know, getting aggressive about what you want and what you need to do, etc. And that's when you start making changes because it pushes you. Now, a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this. A lot of people are angry at the other person, and then they say, well, damn it, I'll be damned if I ever make this mistake again. I'll be damned if I ever let this happen to me. Nobody's ever going to do this to me again. I've said that 1,000 times. I'll be fucking damned if anybody ever fucking does this shit to me again. And then they'll make the changes or whatever and put up the walls to supposedly prevent that, because that's what you're wanting on the surface anyway. And then some time goes by and you kind of lighten up, and then it happens again. And then you go through that all over again. And then years go by and you're like, what the hell? What you've not done is look at yourself and ask yourself, what your core issue is. So with that being the self-love, at the same time, for me, when I've been angry at a situation and then I realized it really was my fault because I let people walk all over me, that made me angry at myself. And then I was pissed off at myself and hated myself even more for letting shit happen. So it's okay to be angry at yourself for, letting things happen like that, but not for long. Don't tear yourself apart. The anger doesn't mean that you've done wrong and you're a bad person and you're not smart and look at what you've let happen because you're such an idiot, blah, blah, blah. That's not it. That's not what this is. The anger is bringing your attention to something that just needs to be brought to light. Anger brings your attention to things that need to be brought to light. That's it. The anger is just there to say, hey, look at this. Look at it. That's it. It's not some grievous sin. You're not some terrible person. You're not some clueless dumbass that doesn't know how to make good choices. You might feel that way, but that's not really at the core. So anger at yourself, for me, has been the biggest motivation to start doing the right thing for myself, because I realized, well, hell, I don't let this happen. I let it happen. And that's when, especially when you get to the point where you're angry at yourself, that brings a lot of clarity, because you're angry at yourself for things you've seen yourself do and you've caught yourself doing. And you're like, son of a bitch, I let that happen because I did blah, 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 blah. And that's why that person thought it was okay to do. So now you've got clarity. So after clarity, you can find a little direction and you start making better choices. Because after your clarity, you've checked a big box there. That's a big hurdle that you just jumped over. Now with your clarity, you've got to say, okay, so now that I'm understand what I've done wrong, what's my next step? I got to fix it somehow. How can I fix it? And then you start doing things with all that motive, because the anger turns into motivation. And then you start doing all kinds of things to like fix your situation. You need to get in touch with somebody that can help you with something. You need to get another job, to a better job, to make better money, better schedule, whatever. You start doing something. You're angry at yourself because you weren't involved in your children's lives so much. You're doing it now, now that you've come to terms with that, or whatever. And the angry at yourself thing, that can be helpful as long as you don't tear yourself apart over it. Because the anger, like I say, is there to show you where you went wrong. And it's not a bad thing, but just don't let it conquer you. people are using a phrase now that at first I didn't understand and now I do, and it's sit with it. Sit with it. What I like to think is when you start feeling that bad, just kind of let it wash over you completely and explore that emotion completely from front to back and from the outside in, just explore it completely and let yourself feel it completely and just let it go through you. And eventually it will run its course and kind of wear itself out and subside. And then once it does that, and you come back to calm, because you're going to come to the center of the storm and you're going to come back to calm, okay, in the very center where it's quiet. And once you get there, you just breathe in it. And you realize that you can come to calm once the emotion has subsided, and that there's always going to be a calm place that you can go to. You just have to let it run its course. Like, that's the best I can tell you. As I gather more, information intuitively or whatever, channel it, whatever it is I'm doing, I can I can come up with some more techniques, but for right now, that's the best I can tell you. But that's what I do. I just let it do its thing until it's done showing me how it feels. How is that emotion? How is that emotion feeling? How does that anger feel? It feels unheard. It feels neglected. It feels, like it's fallen by the wayside. That's the emotion that's underneath, that you're really feeling, that's manifesting as anger, because that's like its best way to get your attention is through rage, because that's so extreme and it'll get your attention quickly. So a lot of stuff comes out as anger, but then at the same time, a lot of anger comes out as suppression. So you have to look at that too. This is real. This can get complicated, and I don't mean to make it so, but I'll do another video for asking the emotion how it feels, because that's a big thing. That's something I like to use a lot, and because it's really revealing. So, but like I say, being angry at yourself is not a bad thing. It's just bringing your attention to something you're doing that you need to stop doing. That's all. So don't tear yourself apart over something that you're feeling bad about or regretting, or, something that you're realizing you shouldn't have done. This is your chance to change that. If you're still alive and you're still up walking around doing things and making decisions and things like that, you're still okay enough to change a habit or change a process of some kind to better your situation. And that's it. So take your time with that, and just think about that. And if you come up with something that you want to tell me about or talk to me about, feel free to message me. I'm always curious to see like what y'all have to say about stuff like that. And new techniques and ideas and shit. I'm into that. So, but anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope that brings you some clarity. And be easy on yourself, because you're learning, just like everybody else is. You're still learning. We're all still learning. There's no expert here that has all this shit figured out better than all the rest of us. Everybody on this planet is dealing with anger or frustration of some kind. So, please don't torture yourself, because I've done all of that shit and it's not worth it. I mean, you don't have to do that. So, thank you for listening to this, and I hope that helps.